Hello, all. Welcome to another episode of The Legacy Leaders. Today I'm joined with Bob Scaccia of USA
Well,
Firmware. Did I get it right?
yes, you certainly did.
Perfect.
Yes. You did.
All right. So Bob's got a lot of years under his belt, a lot of experience. One of the things we're going to talk about today is how he uses not only his brilliance, but his experience to bring his business to light. And what I want
Mhm.
to do is kind of have an open conversation about what it's like to be in the world that he's in and what kind of lessons he thinks would be important for any kind of business owner to learn. So
Yep.
before we get in all that, Bob, I'm going to turn the microphone and the camera over to you. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little
Sure.
bit of your story and what's so special about your business and what you guys do at USA Firmware.
Okay. So my name is Bob Scaccia, and I'm president and founder of USA Firmware. We are entering our 15th year.
Mm.
And my background, I've been an engineer since 1984. Still an engineer, always an engineer. Hard to take that out of me. And I think in terms of what makes this different, and I've had to think about this because we've done well. We've had a lot of customers. I think it's partly because I make sure that the engineers are allowed to be engineers. I don't want them to worry about the dollars. I want them to do the best thing for our client. If you want to get two reasons that come right to mind, right above all three. One is I love engineering and it's important to me. And the other thing is important to my engineers. I mean, why do they go to college to become an engineer? Not to worry about the business side of things. They want to create stuff, right?
Yeah.
So we reward excellence in engineering. We don't reward, oh wow, you really spent a lot of hours on that. Great job. Right? So
Okay, so
so we
there's a solid performance metric, is what you're telling me.
right. I mean, we're focused on, so if I have a client and they have a problem, and I have an engineer that I put on the project, and we estimate it, all right, I think it's going to take 100 hours. I'm just throwing crap out, right? So let's say I think it's 100 hours, and we assign the engineer, we get the purchase order, we get started. And I've had this happen more than once, where I get my engineer in there, and I like to imitate one of my engineers, one of my favorite engineers we had way back in the day. He's semi-retired now, and we actually named an award after him, but
Love this.
but it ties in with the whole story. So he was not I mean he was humble, yet at
Mhm.
the same time extremely intelligent. And so basically two times this happened with him. We had a project, or the client basically was stuck, and they had some kind of an electrical engineering problem. And so his name was Jeff, and we got this whole project set up. We even drove out somewhere to meet with the client, because they wanted us to see the factory and all this kind of stuff. So we had our meeting, and if you're in the engineering world, you work from schematics, right? And especially back in the day, more so. And so he would like do this, right? Drop his glasses, you'd look at it and you go, and then you start talking and electronics engineering geek for a while, this and that, and your power situation here, and then he'd say, and he just would blurt out, he'd say, you have a power starter problem. Right. And this happened once where we drove all the way out to somewhere, met with a client, and then the client said, "You're right." And we're like, "What? You're right. We knew the answer. It took us half a year. You figured it out in an hour." And of course, we didn't make any money, right? Because it took an hour. I mean, we estimated, I don't remember what it was, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
Yeah.
but we actually created an award for that. Because I want to make sure that our engineers are awarded for being engineers, not worrying about the business. And I'm second generation engineer. My dad was an engineer, electrical engineer. My son's an electrical engineer.
Wow.
So for me, it's about the discipline of engineering in and of itself, and a little bit of family pride in that. And so to me, this is all about engineering. That's, I think, the primary reason. Um, I do believe that a lot of our business comes from trust,
Mhm.
and transparency, and you'll probably hear that a million times. The question is whether you really do it.
Of
And
course.
we tried very hard to do it. So I don't want to say that makes us necessarily unique. There are other good companies out there that want to do the right thing. and want to be transparent and trust. But to any firm that wants to develop, especially if they're younger firms and they haven't kind of gone down the road much, it's all about trust at the end of the day. I mean, if you
Yeah.
can get your client to the point where they feel like, you know what, they have our best interest in mind, this firm. That's huge. And it is, as we all know, all about relationships. So I think it's trust, it's a love and a passion for engineering, and knowing that that's really what the value we bring to the table is great engineering, great project management of engineering projects, which requires a lot of engineering in and of itself. So I'll
Well,
stop.
no, Bob, that's great, and I appreciate the walk down that pathway because what most companies fail to recognize is it's okay to be good at what you do. It's okay to be trustworthy and straightforward, and as you said, transparent. It's not okay to milk your clients for extra money simply because you can get it done quicker,
Simply because you can. Right.
right? But here's the interesting thing on the other side, and I'm not putting this on you, but on the other side, clients need to recognize because I hire somebody who's really good at what they do, I don't want to limit their ability to be good by saying I'm only going to pay you for 3 hours worth of work,
You make a great point.
right? But yet
Yeah.
you got it done in an hour. So wait a minute.
Right.
You thought it was going to take a long time to get this figured
Right.
out. We're good enough. We actually not only did we solve the problem sooner than you expected to, we
Mhm.
got you to an answer and to a solution that you can
Right.
implement a lot
Right.
faster. So
Right.
maybe through that transparency,
Yeah.
right, Bob, it's a better way of doing business
Yeah.
with
You know
you,
what? You
which
make a
is
good point because that was a while ago, when we were a younger company. Today, though, what we do is, the problem is when you're a small company, you can do those kind of things. It's not too disruptive. You're just looking for work, right?
right, right.
But when you're larger, you've got, I've got a lot of resources. My engineering manager has to manage all these talents. To have them come in and out all the time on these projects is expensive, right? So if you have a small project, we actually now, say, you know what, it has to be some kind of a minimum. There has to be some kind of a
Yeah,
minimum, right? And so we'll say, I think it's 6 weeks for us right now, or something like that, where we say, here's the minimum, because if we go too far towards a lower number, there's an administrative overhead that's huge, and it's not just because, I'm context switching. I am as a business owner, right, and as the sales representative, so to speak, of the company and my administrative staff, but it's for the engineers, right? They're context switching too much. And all right, I'm working on this project. Obviously, in most cases, that engineer's going to be working on something else if it's a small project, right? And it's just like, okay,
mhm,
I'll fit this in. Well, that's a disruption, right? He's got to stop what he's doing, go work on this, and then go back to where he started, wherever that was, and that's inefficient. So, that does matter. You are right. It does matter. You want to be careful. And to some degree, to your point too, you're whether it takes an hour or 30 hours, if you solve the problem and the value proposition was there when they agreed to the 30 hours, it's still valid. Um, you know, so so again, you are right, but at the same time, it's just a matter of making sure these engineers can do what they feel good about. I did a good job. I'm an engineer and I did the right engineering thing.
yeah. That seems to be I wouldn't say a secret sauce for you, but it's definitely a way that allows the engineer to think clearly and not think about hours, right?
Right,
They're
right.
thinking through a problem. They're solving the
Or,
core
right.
issue. They're not worried about, well, I got to figure it out, but I need to string this along for another week and a half,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
And in
That
fact,
doesn't that
they're more worried about finding a way to reduce the hours, and that's great, right?
well,
Uh,
put it this way, it's like playing really good golf. The better you are at golf, the less golf you get to play.
Nah, I never
If
really
you're
thought about that because I stink. So I can't take a play a lot
if
of
you
golf.
right, if you're really good at engineering and you can solve problems faster than somebody else, you get to do less engineering. And
Yeah,
that's okay. But as long as people recognize I'm paying for the performance and results of the engineering, I'm not paying for the hours they're going to be doing it.
right. No,
And then
absolutely.
you're right.
We're dealing, we have an example right now, and I won't go into detail about who they are, but they need an expert in a particular venue. and it's really hard to find, okay, this kind of
Hmm.
expert. We happen to have someone who has that expertise, okay? We're going to charge a we're going to charge a premium because it's a supply and demand thing.
Yeah.
And he's going to probably solve the problem, not only solve the problem in much less time, but the quality of that decision is going to be significantly better because he knows his stuff.
Right.
You're not taking that risk. So there's a lot of reasons, yeah, to take that into consideration. So yeah, we're you know, they want us to, for this particular customer, say, hey, are we going down the right road? Does this even make sense? Can we do this
Yeah.
technologically? And he's got expertise in it. So, he'll be able to navigate that and tell them yes or no, you're going down the right road. Now, once we get into normal product development, then it'll be a different conversation. But for the first pass, that's a high value decision, right? It's a go or no go
Yeah.
decision, and that's worth a lot of dollars per hour, I suppose.
Well, it's also worth a lot of time because if we can get to that decision sooner, we can
Correct.
move, we can
Right?
get after what we're going to do sooner, or at
Yeah.
least eliminate three, four different ways of not doing it. That's the
Correct.
value of being really good at what you do. And again,
Correct.
I'm not trying to blow smoke up any corridor here, but I'm trying to get people to recognize it's okay to be good at what you do. It's
Yeah.
okay to charge an appropriate dollar
Appropriately.
for the value you bring because it
Mhm.
all comes back to, and you nailed it. The quality of the work we're going to produce is better than what you'll find. The time it takes us to get to that quality work is shorter than what you'll find. So
Yeah.
you, as a customer, have the confidence that we're making the right decision because we have the good quality, but we can get to our solutions faster.
Correct. Much
That's what
faster
we
with
need,
higher quality and lower risk.
right? That's what people
I mean,
need,
you
right?
take a seasoned, in my case, engineer. Holy cow, they've been down those roads. They've down all the
Mhm.
roads. They got all the stripes on their back, right? The chances of failure are much lower. It's a hard thing, no one really, I don't even think highly experienced engineering firms or engineering companies that I've worked with, there's like this mental block. Like, let's say, all right, I'm going to charge you X dollars.
Yeah.
And it's a good maybe 30% more than you might be accustomed to. But this guy's been doing it for 30 years nonstop. He's an expert in it. It'll get done quicker.
Mhm.
And it's simple math, right? If he gets it done 30% quicker, you're in good shape, right? But it's still a hard thing for management to bite, I think, at the end of the day. Because actually, when you talk to the engineering team, they get it. But then, of course, especially if it's a decent sized number, they got to go up the channels, and now they're away from the engineering mentality necessarily, and they might not see the value.
And they're allowing dollars and cents of the immediacy to get in the
Right.
way of the long-term gain of a good
Correct.
quality decision, right?
Yeah.
It goes back to that old story of an engineer walks into a firm, presses a button, turns a knob, and walks away, and then sends him a bill, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And they said, well, all you did, you were here for 30 seconds. You did that. He goes,
Yeah.
yeah, but I knew what button to push and what knob to twist,
Yeah,
right? So,
absolutely. Yeah,
but
you're
still,
right.
at the end
Yeah.
of the day, you got to what you needed to faster. And it's the same argument that let's just say you hired a graphic designer to build you a amazing brand new logo, and you thought it was going to take a month. They gave it to you in 5 days. Do you really want to wait another 3.5 weeks before you can use your brand new cool logo? No, you're
Yeah.
going to,
Sorry,
right?
I can't give it to you yet.
So this is a really good lesson for, I think, anybody, whether you're buying a
Mhm.
quality product or you have a quality product, know the value of what you have. And quite frankly, on the other side of the equation, know the quality of what you're getting when you make those purchases. Because sometimes you're literally skipping over dollars to pick up nickels, and it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, yeah. What I do see is some clients, if it's our first go around, well, there's two thoughts to this. One being, if it's our first go around, they might want to give us a test project. I get it. They
Yeah.
don't know us. But what I don't see a lot of, and it's surprising to me, and I'm more than happy to give this to them, ask for referrals.
Yeah.
You know, I've got great referrals. They'll talk to you on the phone. You guys are happy with our product, and we're happy with the service we provide. Ask for referrals, and not just one, but get a few. So it's not just that one time you did well. But
Yeah. And don't always send people to the same person because you should have more than one referral, right?
Yeah, right.
All right. So now that we've nailed the quality and the timepiece, I'm curious, what are some of the challenges you faced by building USA Firmware into what it is today? Like
Mhm.
as a business owner, what's a challenge that you've come across that you feel really good about how you solved it?
Okay. So I have one. Um, I just have to think about how to articulate it. So, and again, I think the target is kind of, small companies, that are trying to figure out how to grow,
Yeah.
right? There's two things that I think come to mind. Um, One is you've got to take risk in hiring. It's a risk business. Don't expect that just because you're running a company, you're going to be, dripping in dollars. It's a lot of hard work, and you've got to take some chances. So you've got to, if you got to kind of have that. Okay, from what I can see coming down the road, my backlog, or I'm sorry, my forecast or my funnel, um, to feel like the right time. Do I have that sense? It's like almost like an intuition, because again, there's only so much you can do with data on that, and you got to bite the bullet. And sometimes you might have to be willing to risk not having a profitable month or a profitable quarter.
Mm,
If you see an opportunity to hire a great talent, right? Great talent. I know, we're growing. We're a small company, so it's a little bit lumpy, but I don't have investors to report to, which is really nice, right? Because I mean, I have an advisory board, but I certainly don't have investors that are expecting, the numbers to go up every month, so I can take a little more chance. The other thing is you have to be willing to make hard decisions. And if you have an underperforming resource, you've got to make those hard choices. And I remember in the early days, I knew some companies that they're like, well, we've never let anyone go. I'm like, really? I just can't do it. I can't do it. You're
hmm.
not going to survive. Yeah, you got to do it. It sucks. It's painful, not only painful, but sometimes you have an employee and they're cordial, professional about it, and other times they are not.
Yeah.
I've had crying adult men in my office. I mean, it's hard to do, hard to let people go, but you've got to do it. You've got to do it if they are not a good fit. In my business, we're a design services firm, so there's constant interfacing with customers. I mean, that's just what we do. And
Yeah.
if you're an introverted engineer with maybe an ego and not great, emotional intelligence, it ain't gonna work so well. And I've had that happen, where I've got a guy and he just doesn't know how to talk to people and he ticks off customers and, good
Okay.
engineer, but had to
Yeah,
let him
well,
go.
there's something to be said about having a well-rounded team that have skill sets that get applied in their discipline.
Yeah.
And then any ancillary or additional skill sets they bring to the table are great. But one of the challenges, and you may comment to, is how do you handle the non-performers? I don't
Hmm.
know why you're not performing. Is it because you don't believe in what you're doing? Is it because you're upset you're not making enough money? Is it because you don't know what to do next? Those are all three issues that could be communicated about, dealt with, and moved forward. But if there's not a two-way street, whether you to them and them back
Hmm.
to you, how are you as a manager or leader of that organization
Yeah.
supposed to know that until it's so far down the road that you have to get rid of somebody,
Right.
right?
Right.
So if
Yeah.
it's
I would say that there are engineer or there are employees that just need, continual refinement,
Mhm.
and working with them. And then there are employees in my world where engineers are typically introverts. I mean, they are. I've been doing
Yeah,
this since 1984. I know these things. I used to be more introverted, but I kind of run a company. I can't do that anymore.
difficult, right?
So
When you got to
sometimes,
stand out.
that's just, and if it's the way that they're just, if you're talking to a 50-year-old adult and he or she's been an introvert their whole life and now they got to talk to people all day long,
Mhm.
That's kind of hard to reprogram, but if you've got a young engineer, I mean, that's one thing, if you pick the right malleable sponge,
Yeah.
of a young talent, then, it's the old adage about, what is it? You can't train, can't remember the phrase, but it's basically that, I mean, I can train somebody who's motivated.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I've done that. I had a young engineer early in the day and he just needed a shot, and then, and he was very fresh, didn't even know how to write an email that didn't look like a text message, with, abbreviations in it. And I'm like, but we were able to teach him. And now he's on his own, not on his own, but he's in a larger organization, doing just fine. But he had graduated in the year of the Great Recession. So there was no one
Ooh,
hiring in that
yeah.
year. There was nobody hiring. So he was painting walls. And I was working with a client, and the client said, "Hey, I got my nephew, and he has a full degree from Toledo University. You should consider him." And I did. I gave him a shot, and it worked out.
Well, I'm happy to hear that because what makes this so vital, and going back to the comment of refinement of self and skill, is something that you touched on, right?
Mhm.
It takes a two-way street to make that work. And what I mean by that is the organization needs to be able to take a risk on somebody that's willing to be that person that is going to be working towards something better than what they are today. So that
Yep.
refinement of skill and self is, okay, I want to do it. I have to find an organization that's willing to give me that avenue or that broad berth to go do it, right?
Right.
And what's interesting is,
I like the
going back,
phrase. It's a good phrase.
well, thank you. It's just interesting to go back and just listen to the conversation. It's like, yeah, you have to take a risk in hiring.
Bear with me for a minute. I do not know what even that is.
I think what makes for a good connection between refinement of self and skill is having that ability. A company's going to allow you to do it, right? Because a lot
Right.
of companies don't want that, right? You have to hire somebody that has the will to do it, but you also have to give them the trust that they're going to have the runway to get better.
Right. Right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's all about the will.
Yeah, and
If
I had
they're
a
willing to
conversation.
do it and both sides are willing to do it, it should work.
Yeah, because I had a conversation with somebody earlier today about the difference between aptitude and attitude. Now, granted, you don't want to hire a
Yeah.
landscaper to do engineering work,
Hmm.
but you want to hire somebody that has an engineering background. But what's more important to me is the attitude they bring to the
I
table. Does it
totally
align
agree
with
with
your
you.
vision? Does it align with what you're trying to get done?
Mhm.
And if that is indeed the case, you're winning the battle as soon as you get out the gate. Now it's just a matter of
Right.
how far you're going to run together
Right.
and how many awards
Right.
you're gonna take
Right.
in, right?
I'll tell you, as a business owner or as a manager, that's one of the most rewarding aspects.
The team aspect.
Yeah, well, the taking a talent and helping them
Yeah.
work through, you can see they have the passion for it. They just want to improve. They're a sponge, and they succeed at the end of the day. That's incredibly
Yeah.
rewarding.
I
Those
would
are
agree
things
with
you
that.
never forget.
I no, I would agree with that. I think it's rewarding to have somebody fall in your lap that ends up just proving every decision you made was the right decision. Right? It just
It's
shows
true.
you're brilliant, Bob, right? It shows you're
That's
brilliant.
what it is. Okay, okay, whatever.
Hey, nobody said you had to be really, really good and lucky. You just have to be lucky sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you have to be a little bit and this is a general comment. I want to say, it's almost like you have to have a mix of, you know, good intellect, just,
Hmm?
smarts and humility. Because if you're smart and humble, then you realize things like, I've never run a business before.
Yeah.
Just because I'm smart doesn't mean I know how the heck to do that.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I've run
So,
across plenty of really intelligent lawyers and doctors that are incredibly smart in their wheelhouse. but they don't know about accounting. They don't know about marketing. They don't know
Of
about
course,
teamwork.
of course.
There's a lot more that you need to bring to the table than just,
Absolutely.
I'm
And
brilliant.
that's right. It's all of the above. You got to know
Yeah.
you got to learn all those things at least.
Well, I would agree. You have to learn all those things. But the best way to learn it is with the right attitude. And we've already kind of talked about this, right? I could be a sponge and absorb everything I need to learn and absolutely be really good at running a business because I took the time to get there. Or I could lock myself into a room filled with my own ego and expect everything to work.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
right. And I've seen both.
It doesn't flow that way, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things I liked what you brought up is humility. How is it that an engineer who is as bright as they are, how does engineer ask somebody for help?
How? Well, I'm not sure exactly if I understand what you mean by that, but I'll answer it the way I think I understand it.
Okay.
I mean, if you are, and I mean, I was a young engineer one time. Don't go into it thinking that you have to know everything,
Mhm.
because you don't. And in fact, I would put it this way: if I bring someone on board and either they're younger or not, but there's something new they need to learn, and they're just off in their cube, and there are other people in the office that know it.
Yeah.
They're doing my company a disservice and they're doing themselves a disservice. Why in the heck aren't they asking questions, right? I mean, I would expect them not to know everything, so why aren't they asking? And that's more true of the younger talent or newer talent. If they come in and if they're not asking questions, that's a warning sign to me. I'm looking for dumb questions. I mean, if you're not asking the dumb questions, then you're not really truly asking all the questions. Of course, I always say there's no dumb, well, but you get the idea. You ask the
No, no,
questions.
I get what you're saying. And what it boils down to for somebody trying to grasp this concept, if you're not asking questions, you're not stretching your own limitations. Because if
Exactly.
you, right, if you only live inside the globe that is your world and you don't ask, how do I get on the other side of that? You'll never do it. So you
You,
have to ask questions. And it's not because you don't know something, it's maybe because what you know could be improved by asking somebody a different way of doing it. And that's, I
true.
think, is the
Yeah.
secret to a lot of this is we get so over our own egos that there's
Hmm.
no way possibly I could have somebody help me. I can do this on my own. No, it's okay to ask. And instead of saying, excuse me for asking, you should say something along the lines of, I'm really passionate about this and I want to learn more. So what do you think? Right?
Yeah.
That way you're bringing a collaborative approach to it rather than, well, I'm not good at, I'm not as good as you. Could you help? It's,
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
to be as good as you. So could you help me? It's a
And,
very
and,
different
you-
change.
and people need to realize too that let's say, you come to someone and you're asking for help. Um, a good colleague will actually be excited to help. They'll want to help.
Yeah, the right colleague will.
Yeah, I mean it's and like I said, it's rewarding,
Mhm.
to be able to help somebody else, and it's almost like, okay, I've been doing this a long time, and I feel like I still have value, right? I can give some of that back, right? And that's always feels right.
Well, here's an interesting flow chart for you. You have somebody that wants to be better, so they ask you. You feel valued because now I can give you some of my wisdom.
Hmm.
Eventually, that turns into now I'm willing to pass you the torch because you know what you need to know about
Yep.
whether it's
Yep.
project driven or overarching
Anything,
career, or at some point,
anything.
Bob, you're going to say to somebody, I'm ready to hand over the firm or USA firmware.
Yeah.
I'm ready
Yeah.
because you've done what you needed to do to be who
Right.
you wanted to be. I think
Right.
that's one of the more compelling parts of that reward. It's not just
Yeah.
isolated, it grows along with yourself and the relationship you have
Right.
with your employees.
Right. Well, and at certain points, I mean, it's good to know. In fact, I had a situation like that where I had surgery, I had back surgery, and I was out for a while, and so I made my VP of Business Development president for a while, and it worked great. We had a great year. So he did just fine, and it was really good to know that the organization doesn't really need me anymore. And that comes back to the humility, right? You got to be, but
Mhm.
on the other hand, it's like, okay, well, that means I built a solid organization, right? You know?
You built a solid organization with a solid vision that everybody can buy into and a group of people that know how the system works.
Right,
Pretty
right.
solid, pretty good way to do it. We're rubbing up on the end of the conversation here. I want to ask you one question, and I think it's interesting because I want to hear from you. I'm going to put you in a time machine. I'm going to send you back, and you're going to meet 18-year-old Bob. You're going to sit on a
18-year-old Bob, huh? Okay.
Yep, and you're going to sit on a park bench and have a conversation. What's that conversation look like or sound like?
So, in what context? In other words, I am the 18-year-old Bob
Yep, you and 18-year-old Bob are talking. What are you guys talking about?
at 18. Uh, Other than girls.
Yes, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, there was a lot of that at that age. There was a
Of
lot of
course there was.
interest in what are we doing Friday night? But sitting on a bench. Well, by then I already knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an engineer.
Yep.
Dad was an engineer, and he really got me excited about engineering. Um, but I want to be honest here. Let's see. I think there was a lot of at that age, and I would say this would be true. There's some sense of fear and anxiety and worry and feeling you're not good enough.
Okay.
I mean, I was about to start college. I was afraid to death. Um, and I had a professor, and I was probably 19 by then, but good enough. So in high school, with all the peer pressure and all this crazy stuff that goes on in high school, I was not a high performer in high school. And in fact, I loved math, but it
Hmm.
wasn't, but I didn't get good grades. And I got a teacher, my first calculus teacher, and he just turned me on to calculus. I just thought it was the coolest thing. And I got straight A's in all my math classes from that day forward. And I think that helped me realize my potential. It's
Yeah.
just a matter of, maybe I was in kind of you know, there's a difference between being a kid and an adult or being working your way
Yep.
towards, the college environment isn't perfect, but it's more mature than the high school situation. And I was able
Okay.
to focus and concentrate. And so don't give up, I guess, is maybe kind
Okay.
of part of the thinking. And it's okay to be nervous and secure about your talents and your abilities, especially at an age like that. So I don't know if I'm answering your question the
No,
way you
you did. And
expected, but
what I heard you say is I had a passion and an interest in something that I knew I wanted to do. But when I met somebody that also believed in me and gave me the confidence to really embrace what I wanted to do, I then took off. That is a
yeah,
solid message that I want people to
yeah.
understand. Sometimes, as much as you are passionate about something, you need somebody else to help you live that dream. So, thank
Oh,
you for that.
absolutely.
That
Yep.
was really
No
good.
problem.
Bob, thank you for this amazing conversation. Plenty of good golden nuggets, which is
Good.
always a good thing.
Good.
I want to thank you, and we'll see
Well,
everybody
thank
on the
you.
next episode.
Very good.
Bye now.